Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you this morning? How are you doing? You are welcome to the e-learning organized by Mayasha Islamic Academy. Get your written materials, your textbooks, as we look on a topic in agricultural science, which is food contamination. Are we together? Good. We are looking at a very important topic that has to do with every aspect of life, which is food contamination. Again, food contamination. That is what we are looking at this very morning. Now, we define food contamination as the presence of harmful chemicals and microorganisms in food which are dangerous to the consumers. Let's go again. Are we together? Are we together? Good. We say food contamination can be defined as the presence of harmful chemicals and microorganisms in food which are dangerous to the consumers. Which are dangerous to the consumers. Now, who are the consumers? You are the consumers. You at home, you are the consumers. I am the consumers. Everybody in the society, we are all consumers. As far as we take food, as far as we eat food, we are all consumers of food. But in a recent survey, we discovered that there are a lot of problems. There are a lot of problems that makes food to be poisonous, or that makes food to be contaminated. Now we are going to be looking at those issues that makes food to be contaminated. Now look at what they are. I will underline something here. It said harmful chemicals. Repeat. Harmful chemicals. Are you with me? Are we together? Harmful chemicals and microorganisms. These are what I want us to. I will elaborate on microorganisms and harmful chemicals. Now, let's look at. I underlined two words here, which are what? Microorganisms and harmful chemicals. Now, in terms of harmful chemicals, the reason why we have harmful chemicals in our food that causes food contamination is because we don't wash our food, we don't cook our food properly, or sometimes we leave our food unkept. Sometimes that's why sometimes you go to the kitchen, you see flies all around your food. Those flies can cause the food to be contaminated. Now we have the microorganisms that are present in our food. We have the microorganisms that also causes food contamination. We have that the reason why we have these microorganisms is because some virus have failed or have laid on that food. Instantly, when a testy fly, we all know testy fly, isn't it? Good. For example, when a testy fly, you find a testy fly in your food, you discover that sometimes you have to remove some portion, or some people will have to go and throw that food away because of the microorganism that the fly may be carrying from one place to the other. He said, which are dangerous to the consumers. It is dangerous to eat a contaminated food. It is very, very dangerous to eat a contaminated food. Now let's go to the definition again. Are we together? Are we together? Good. Now, he said food contamination can be defined, are we together, as the presence of harmful chemicals and microorganisms in food which are dangerous to the consumers. That is the real definition of contaminated food. We all eat food, but it is important for us not to eat a contaminated food. Now we are going to be looking at the symptoms of eating a contaminated food. Are we together? Good. We are going to be looking at the symptoms of eating contaminated food. Now, we have one. We have diarrhea. 2, are we following? Good. We have stomach disorder. we have vomiting. Are we together? Good. Then 4, we have sickness. Are we together? There are symptoms of eating. There are various symptoms of eating contaminated food, but it varies on your system. Are we together? It varies on your system. When you eat a contaminated food, some of us, because our immune system is very strong, we may not experience this 4 that is being written. But when you eat a contaminated food, you are likely to experience 1 or 2 of these symptoms, which are diarrhea, stomach disorder, vomiting, sickness, and sometimes, don't be surprised, sometimes can lead to death. Sometimes can also lead to death. Look at the diarrhea. The diarrhea is a process where someone will be vomiting and be excreting at the same time. When you see somebody excreting and vomiting at the same time, it may be to the cause of eating food contamination. We have the stomach disorder. Stomach disorder is a situation whereby your stomach will not be in peace. You have to excrete or take some drugs in order for you to get better. Then we have the vomiting aspect of it, which are one of the symptoms of eating contaminated food. The vomiting aspect of it. Now, somebody may want to ask a question that sometimes, even if you don't eat a contaminated food, you may vomit. Yes, that is true. Are we together? That is true. Sometimes if you don't eat if you eat something that is your system is not used to, you may vomit. Like for instance, if a Nigerian man happens to find himself in a Chinese restaurant and eats one of their food, he may also vomit because his system is not used to that kind of food. Does not mean that food is contaminated. It's because his system is not used to that kind of food, so he may vomit. Now we have the sickness. All the symptoms are sickness. The sickness, maybe if you don't respond to it on time, it will lead to sickness, and it may also lead to death. Are we following? Are we following? Good. Now let's look at the third aim and objective of this lesson, which is the organisms that causes food contamination. Food contamination, as I said earlier, food contamination doesn't occur on its own. There are organisms that causes food contamination. That is what we are looking at. We have the first one, organisms that causes food contamination. Are we together?
700.
Start. Food contamination. The first one, we have the salmonella. Can I hear you say salmonella? Good. We have the salmonella virus. We have the salmonella virus. This salmonella virus is one of the organisms that causes food contamination, and it is usually carried by tasty fly. That fly that you see that will just come to your food. This virus is always carried by that tasty fly. So you have to take note of that. We have the number 2 as one of the organisms that causes food contamination. We have the listeria. Can I hear you say listeria? Again, good. We have the listeria virus. We have the listeria virus. The listeria virus is one of the organisms that also causes food contamination. Any of the fly may be carrying this listeria virus. Sometimes this listeria virus comes with the food from the farm directly. That is why it is important for us to always wash our food and always cook our food in a proper way, so that we will not be infected with any of these virus. We have the number 3, which is Escherichia virus. The Escherichia We have the Escherichia virus as one of the organisms that causes food contamination. It's also one of the organisms that causes food contamination. The Escherichia virus is usually carried by a living organisms. A living organisms. That is what usually carries this Escherichia virus, and it causes is one of the organisms that causes food contamination. Now we are looking at the next one, number 4. We have the norovirus. What did I say? Norovirus. We have the norovirus as one of the organisms that causes food contamination. So all these organisms, they exist in our food. They exist in our food. That's why it causes food contamination. So it is important for us to always wash our food properly, cook our food properly, cover our food when we finish cooking or when we are cooking or after cooking. It is important to avoid food contamination. Now let's go to the topic again. Let's go to the topic again. Remember, I told us the aim and the objective of this lesson is for us to be able to define food contamination. Second is for us to be able to mention the symptoms of eating contaminated food. The third one is the organism that causes food contamination. Are we following? Are we following? Good. Now, we define food contamination as the presence of harmful chemicals. The presence of harmful chemicals. That means they are telling us here, before a food can be contaminated, there must be a presence of harmful chemicals and microorganisms in food which are dangerous to the consumers. You are the consumers, I am the consumers, the society at large, we are the consumers of food. That is the definition. Then we mention symptoms of eating contaminated food. We mention the symptoms of eating a contaminated food. We have the first one there that said diarrhea as one of the symptoms of eating contaminated food. Is the process where you discover that somebody is excreting and is vomiting at the same time. Those are the symptoms. That is diarrhea. Then you have the stomach disorder. You have the stomach disorder. It's a situation where your stomach will not be at peace. You have to take some drugs, or you have to go to visit the toilet, excrete and all that before you get yourself. We have the vomiting. We have the vomiting as one of the symptoms of eating contaminated food. You vomit when you eat a contaminated food. But I said earlier that sometimes when you eat food that your stomach is not used to, you may vomit. Oh yeah, it does not mean that food is contaminated. It's because your immune system or your stomach is not used to that kind of food. So you may vomit it. Now, the fourth one is sickness. Eating contaminated food may lead to sickness, and sometimes death may occur. Now, we have the last one, which is organism that causes food contamination. There are organisms that causes food contamination. We have the Salmonella virus, which is always carried by the testy fly you see around. We have the Listeria virus. This Listeria virus is also carried by a fly. There is this fly that is big. It's bigger than the normal flies. That fly usually carries Listeria virus. Are you with me? Are we together? It's usually carry Listeria virus. It's bigger than the normal fly. It's bigger than the normal fly you know. When you see that fly, or whenever you see it, just make sure you pesticide your environment and all that. Then we have the Escherichia virus. Then we have the norovirus. Are you happy now? Good. Now, if you have any question you want to ask in our platform, you can chat up with me. I will respond to any of your questions. God bless you. Masalam.